What's up, Elite Army? This is your kinda well, kinda toxic host, Sarah Rittendale, bringing you another episode of Wellish. I promise not to be lame and tell you guys that you have to give up on working to become this better version of yourself and that you have to love who you are right now and that you're loving yourself up, and accept everything about you. Like, that's not what we're going to talk about, I promise. Especially because a big part of loving yourself is feeling that you are worthy to invest in yourself, that you're worthy to help promote your own growth. So then how does acceptance and surrender fit into the mix? When I began my self-love journey, one of the hardest things for me to wrap my head around was how I was supposed to fully love and accept myself when I didn't like pieces of me, that I was still working to become this better version of myself. And that's the version of me that I wanted to love, was the one that seemed better. And I wasn't going to have love for myself until I had things about me that I was able to love. And even if there were things that I didn't not like, they just weren't what I wanted them to be. And again, I was committed to only loving the version of myself that I felt was evolved and healed and the best version of me. And until I reached that point, then I wasn't going to be capable of unconditionally loving myself. But here's the biggest thing that I wish I would have known at this point, someone would have told me, I just wish I would have understood, is that, and it seems common sense, but maybe it wasn't for you as much as it wasn't for me, is that just because you accept something about yourself doesn't mean that you can't improve upon it. You can't change it. You can't readjust it. You can't make it even better. Just because you decide to accept yourself or accept a piece of yourself doesn't mean that that piece can't still evolve and change. You cannot like that you're a people pleaser. You cannot like that about yourself. But you can accept that this is a survival mechanism that you have learned and you've been using to cope. And you can accept that you are actively working to take better care of yourself. And you can accept that you are working to put your feelings above other people's instead of the other way around. Just because you accept your flaws and vulnerabilities and weaknesses doesn't mean that you have to no longer work on them, doesn't mean that you have to be okay with the way that they are. You can accept that this is a part of your life right now, but that doesn't mean that the healing stops. And it's almost like this subconscious fear that if you were to accept it, then your brain is going to be like, all right, troops, head out. All operations are down. Absolutely not. We're not working on this anymore because they've decided that they love it how it is. No. Like you accept it. You say, okay, this is what's happening for me right now. I'm a perfectionist and I recognize that I have reached this point of perfectionism because I always had these expectations of me growing up, or I have had so many challenges that if I don't make sure that things in my life are perfect and under my control, that it's possible that things will go back to the way that they were at those horrible times and be out of my control and I will feel not good. So this is my way of making sure that I always feel okay. Thank you, self, mind, body, for providing those mechanisms for me, but I'm not in those horrible places anymore. And I know that I can handle if a situation like that were to arise, especially because I have been through it before and I know what I did wrong and I know what I would do instead. And I know what I would be good at if the opportunity presented itself again. I know that those things happened in my life and I know that I'm a better version of myself for that happening in my life. You accept it as who you are, but that again doesn't mean that you shouldn't, that doesn't mean that it stops there. You pick up from that because you love yourself unconditionally and are able to work on that. Here's the thing though. It's possible those things will always be a little bit a part of you. They will be much less. You will have healed much more, but you can't expect perfection. There's not going to be a time that you transform into a godlike self-improvement figure. You're still human. You're still always going to need healing because life is always going to have new experiences and challenges and trials and emotions and things that pop up in your life. You work to remove the wounds that really trigger you. If somebody says something or does something and you just like are so triggered by that, you're working to ease that pain. But that doesn't mean that you're going to reach the state of perfection that's unbothered. So you just have to learn to accept that there's these pieces of you that you might not think are your favorite thing in the entire world, that might be aggravating to deal with, that you would like to, again, continue to improve on. But those are the things that make you a healed, whole version of yourself. The earth has horrible things a part of it, like explosions and volcanoes and pits and garbage, but they also have mountains and oceans and culture, and there's light and there's dark in anything. And that's what makes something whole. And you are a whole, beautiful person. I would so much rather be friends with somebody that has experience under their belt, that has emotions and feelings and challenges and weaknesses and vulnerabilities than a person that is perfect and boring, because it does make that person interesting. However, a perfect, boring person actually doesn't exist. What that looks like is a person that hasn't come to accept all of those things, or emotions and feelings and vulnerabilities. And so they spend all of their time hiding, suppressing, deflecting, projecting onto you. And I don't want to be friends with that person. I want to be friends with the person that has them, because everybody does, and can deal with them and is a better person because of them, because they've accepted that that is a part of who they are and they build on those things. You have to be able to acknowledge your imperfections and give yourself permission to not be perfect. The same way that you would never expect someone you love to be perfect and never have feelings and never have challenges in order for them to be worthy of your love. Surrender in self-love means letting go of that idea of perfection, letting go of control of your life. And I don't mean letting your life get out of control, because see, even I, when I say that, feel like, whoa, what are you talking about? You gotta release the reins and let go of control. That sounds like my life is gonna go out of control. But it doesn't. You still have control over yourself and what you do in your life. But just because you release that control and you do surrender to life and yourself, the clutches that you've fucking had on yourself for so long, doesn't mean that you give up on your self-growth journey. Those two things don't correlate. They are not the same. It's allowing yourself to be authentically you. You will never have control of other people's opinions of you. So when those fears start to present themselves for you, oh my God, I wonder what they're thinking of me. Oh my God, I can't handle this, like it's just too much, blah, blah, blah. You're starting to worry, how do I behave? How do I show up? Am I being awkward? Am I talking enough? Am I doing all of these things? When you start to feel that come up inside of you, ask yourself, am I behaving in alignment with who I am? And you'll get an immediate answer. And when that answer is yes, you feel this instant state of ease and peace, because you know that there's nothing else that you would have done, or no other way that you would have behaved. You would have acted that way in front of absolutely anybody, or said that in front of absolutely anybody, because you were staying true to who you are. And that is a good feeling, because you just feel like, okay, like I'm not going to change for the sake of other people, because that is who I am and I've acknowledged that. And if the answer is no, you know what to improve on. You know what to do in that moment or for next time to act more in alignment with yourself. When you get that no answer, you also immediately know what you would have done to behave in alignment with your true self. You can't control so many of the experiences that we have in our life and the feelings that come as an immediate reaction to those experiences. Rather than being a dick to yourself and beating yourself up for these experiences that are happening that are out of your control, being able to be nice to yourself and not add to the turmoil of the negativity that the experience has already caused. You know what you can control, though? Your ability to love yourself. And if you would just release control and stop wishing that you could control all of these outside forces and focus your attention instead on what you can control, and that being your love for yourself, you will instinctively take better care of yourself and feel so much better. The car's driving at full speed anyway, baby. It's going. You're going anyway. It's what direction are you going to steer it? Are you going to steer it toward the negativity and the bullshit and trying to make sure that people like you and trying to make sure that your life goes exactly the way that you picture it in your head? Or are you going to steer it in the direction of self-love and focus your energy there instead and watch what happens because of it? Oh my God, epiphany. Epiphany just happened right now. That's what people are talking about when they talk about that life falls into place when you just love yourself and work on yourself and focus on yourself. Because if you focus your attention on that, which it doesn't look the same, follow me if this can make sense here. Like, it's not like you're working on it, like you're checking things off of a list like you would be for those things that you're trying to control. Like, for example, getting somebody to like you. You're just focusing on loving yourself as a whole. And as things pop up in your life, say, okay, can I love that about myself? I can. I can accept that this is a piece of who I am. And I love that about me because I love that it has been integrated into my life for this reason. And when you focus your energy there and focus your sense of need for control there, everything else is just kind of following behind you. Everything else just makes sense because when you completely love yourself, you're no longer worried about the control over people's opinions of you. You don't, A, need their opinion, and B, they probably will like you because you are this elite version of you. Phew, that was cool. I love that one. I'm glad you guys were here with me for that. We got to find a way to stop having these unrealistic expectations for ourselves. There's always going to be shit to work on, especially if you're an open-minded person with a growth mindset. You're always going to find something. And we have to stop waiting for a state of perfection in order for you to be good enough to love. Accept that you are already a version of yourself that you can unconditionally love and begin to act and show up accordingly. Thank you so much for listening to day 4 of the 28 Days of Self-Love. Make sure to subscribe to the show so that you can tune in tomorrow for day 5, where we have our first of 4 guests this month because we're still making Monday special for our typical release day of Monday and having a guest expert on for each Monday. So tomorrow we are sitting down with body image coach Heather Gale, who is going to walk us through some really cool tactics in order to have a more self-love oriented body image for ourselves. And she's got some really good shifts in perspective. So you guys will really enjoy that one. Make sure to tune in tomorrow. Make sure to subscribe to the show. Make sure your day kicks ass. And I will talk to you guys tomorrow.